So I'm thinking as you watch this newscast, there's some things that are going to probably come to mind. These are the questions I think you might be thinking about. What is the message that China and Russia are jointly sending Washington? The Taliban now control Afghanistan again. What will the U.S. do about it? And why do Democrats push out Andrew Cuomo, their highest profile leader? All right. It's a sentence that makes the West stand up, take notice, and certainly pay attention. The fact that Russians, as I mentioned a little while ago, are going to be conducting military exercises while using Chinese weapons. It should send alarm bells across places like Washington, London, Paris. This is what the West is waking up to. The news that the Chinese and Russian militaries are coming together in China's north-central region this week, with a Chinese official describing the exercises as joint anti-terrorism operations aimed at demonstrating the firm determination and strength of the two countries. It reads like a PR statement. When it comes to maintaining regional stability, that is what the U.S. says it is doing in the South China Sea, where Washington has increased military drills in the name of sending Beijing a message. China has ramped up its own presence in the South China Sea, which it says is crucial for global trade. And now Russia is joining in to provide maritime patrols. Beijing has repeatedly warned Washington that there will be consequences if it continues exercises in its, quote, backyard. Russia has similar concerns and complaints amid increased run-ins with the U.S. by air and water over the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. Both sides accuse the other of violating rules of engagement. The U.S. says it's representing NATO, while Russia says, yes, but it's in our territory. This also comes weeks after the U.S. partnered with Ukraine for a set of military exercises in the Black Sea. The Biden administration has made no secret about the fact that Russia and China are its two main targets on the global stage, and they want Congress to support the administration's $1 trillion infrastructure package to send both countries a message.
This is particularly important now because it's no secret to any of us that the Chinese and Russian governments, among others, are making the argument in public and in private that the United States is in decline. So it's better to cast your lot with their authoritarian visions for the world than with our democratic one.
All right, joining us now to discuss these latest rounds of military drills is the former member of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski, served for many years in the U.S. Air Force and has often not been shy about criticizing our foreign policy. All right, let's start with this. You wake up one day and you find out that the Chinese and the Russians are having joint military exercises, and to boot, they're actually sharing military equipment and sharing weapons. What do you think of when you hear that headline?
Well, it sounds like from the Pentagon's perspective, that there's an alliance against the Pentagon going on amongst two pretty well-funded countries with pretty, well-armed militaries. This is probably, I mean, Nixon went to China in order to split the Sino-Soviet linkage and potential for an alliance. We don't have anybody like that to split it, and we don't have any agendas that will do anything but continue to, as you said, push these two countries together in some ways. Now, both of those countries value their sovereignty very, very much, and neither Russia or China are calling anything that they're doing and have been doing for the past several years as an alliance. They don't consider it an alliance. It's a good neighbor policy is how they view it.
Is it maybe more about just suddenly having mutual interests? And I don't want to certainly put words in your mouth, Colonel, but would it seem that there may be a point to be made that the United States, our country, has been aggressive enough to cause them to come together?
Well, there's a couple of problems, and I think Blinken, in your clip with Anthony Blinken, when he said the people are the world is thinking the United States is in decline. I thought that was very revealing, because of course that is what the world thinks. And when empires decline, they become unpredictable and unreliable. And we certainly, our actions overseas in the South China Sea and the Black Sea, really around the world, is anything but democratic, and it is everything like a totalitarian push for control. So this is how I think most likely the Chinese communists and the if you want to call the Russians a dictatorship. I mean, we have our names for their forms of government, but they certainly are reading the situation, I think, very correctly, very wisely, and very prudently. I mean, this is a George Herbert Walker Bush moment. It's what's prudent to do, and it's very prudent for the Chinese and the Russians to improve communications and consider how they may respond to threats. And of course, one of the key rationales for this exercise that they're doing, the one you're reporting on, has to do with fighting terrorism. And some of that does aim back to a newly, perhaps unstable Afghanistan, although I would say it's been unstable for a long time. But we've pulled out of Afghanistan. There may be a power vacuum. Taliban may or may not be cooperative with either China or Russia. So they have to be prepared for that. And that could be a terroristic threat of some sort. It makes sense.
When the Russians say, what the hell are you guys doing in the Black Sea? I mean, come on. You're right on our shores. I mean, this is offensive. When they say that, and I'm not saying I'm agreeing with them, are they right to be protesting that?
Well, whether they're right or wrong, it's certainly natural and predictable that they would be concerned, if nothing else, for the possibility of an accidental incident. When, I mean, some years ago, not too long ago, we had our own ships in the Pacific crashing into each other and crashing into ports. And we fired a few captains and admirals, I guess. But I wouldn't want the U.S. Navy in a small body of water near land in near my country. I wouldn't want it just for safety purposes. So I think there's a natural resistance to that. And I mean, clearly, and you've pointed this out before, if you turn the tables, my God, the United States would go crazy. The people would be insane if we had either Chinese or Russian navies in the Gulf of Mexico. We have no idea what our government is doing. In fact, I check the Drudge Report headlines just to see what's in the news. Nothing on any exercises that we do. Nothing that we're doing now. Nothing about the upcoming North Korean exercises, and really at this point, nothing on the Russia-China exercises. So, if this becomes a useful propaganda point, they'll throw it on the American population, and nobody's going to think about it. But in real life, mature adults running the world, what China and Russia are doing, it makes perfect sense. And I imagine and fully expect them to continue it.
Well, yeah, and that bears the question about whether we're causing it. Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski, as usual, my thanks to you for your commentary